But what this now gives us is the best backcourt in America. And I feel confident. At minimum, you can say it gives us the nation's best shooting backcourt, right? When you're talking about how good of a shooting backcourt this is, I broke down the percentages, and this is including LeBaron Fallon's 31.5%. The way I did this is for Houston Millette, I did 2 seasons ago, so I did Pepperdine, so that I didn't include his 50% on just 10 attempts. For Latrell Wrightsell, I included his entire full season because I didn't want it to be, just the most recent. And then for Jalil Bethea and Aiden Holloway and LeBaron, I did just their most recent season. For the 2 guys that were hurt, I did their last full season. For the other 3 guys, I did their most recent season. And with those stats, Alabama has a 38% shooting from 3 backcourt. Obviously, all on high volume. We know that Aiden and Trelly and Houston and all these guys are able to take super high volume, and in our system, that is incredible. You have guys like Latrell and Aiden and, in Houston that are all elite catch and shoot guys. Jalil Bethea, we think that he's going to have that extra step up. Last season, he shot just 32.6% from 3, better than LeBaron, but still not at the level that he's capable of. He was, on an AAU circuit, was shooting high 40% range or mid 40% range from 3. He's a shooter that, has the skill set to be as good as Aiden Holloway, a 40+% shooting guy. Obviously, in our system and the shots that he's going to get, much different than the type of shots he got at Miami. So I do think that he obviously will be able to get some better shots. But simply put, this is the deepest, the strongest shooting backcourt in America, right? And what this gives us is just gives us the versatility to be able to throw out whoever we need. And from a fouls perspective, from an injuries perspective, obviously we hope we have none. We hope we're never in foul trouble. We hope we don't have any injury issues. But if somebody's, slightly banged up with an injured ankle or whatever may be the case, right? Things happen in basketball. So the fact that we have 5 guys that all can pass, dribble, and shoot. The one guy out of this group that I don't particularly want handling the ball a ton is Houston. I think that the other 4 guys definitely can handle the ball. I don't know that they would all be primary ball handlers, but I definitely think they have that ability. Then you see that obviously the other guys that we have on our team that have that ability to handle the ball as well. And then again, just how good of a shooting backcourt this is. This is a team that's going to stress a ton of defenses. Alabama was able to be one of the fastest playing teams in the country last season. A lot of that was because of how fast we're able to play with LeBaron Fallon and how fast we're able to play with Aiden Holloway. I actually think we were a little slower when we were playing with Mark Sears at times, just because I thought that Aiden and LeBaron pushed that pace a little more. The other thing you have to consider is the spacing that we're going to have on the floor, right? Since we bring in LeBaron Fallon, all the talk in my most recent episode, and I'm going to leave it up for anybody that's curious, but my most recent episode, I talked about Desmond Claude because he was the name that Alabama was linked to the most that was going to be a guard. And we talked about the spacing that we were going to have around him and the fact that even though he wasn't much of a three-point shooter, we were going to have a ton of spacing around him that was going to give him that freedom of movement. Well, LeBaron Fallon gets that freedom of movement, but also gives us the shooting, right? So now you're going to have a legitimate 5 guys on the floor, a projected starting lineup, and we'll go through this in depth more. But I would project our current starting lineup to be LeBaron Fallon, Aiden Holloway, Jalil Bethea, Taylor Bowen, and Aiden Sherrill. Right? Whether it's Aiden Sherrill or Noah Williamson, you always have a shooting guy there. If London Jemison becomes better, right? And he slides into the starting lineup. If he makes his way into the starting lineup, it's because he's played his way into there, right? What Alabama is giving you so much versatility. When Trelly gets more healthy, right? He could slide his way back into the starting lineup. I could see a situation where Trelly slides his way into the lineup and Aiden stays coming off the bench because he can give you that jolt from the bench. Right? There's plenty of different options that you have with this starting lineup. And I think that it really gives you that ability to play the type of basketball that Nate Oates wants to play, right? Currently, our worst shooting three-point shooter on our team is 7-foot Noah Williamson, who averaged around 1 3 per game. I believe he made 32, 33 threes last season, right? So a 7-footer that made a 3 a game is our worst statistic three-point shooter on the team. I will take that all day, every day, especially given the fact that he's still a guy that makes you step out, right? If you leave him wide open, he has the ability to make that shot. And that's even when he was just playing in a Bucknell system, then I'm sure he didn't get past that shot quite as often as he's going to get in the Alabama offense, right? We saw that at times last season where Aiden Sherrill was left wide open because they're like, well, we're going to sag off the big man because everyone else can beat you from three. And Aiden Sherrill hits a couple of threes. They have to come out on him. It just helps the spacing. That's what a return of LeBaron Filan does for you, is he gives you the extra shooter, but he also gives you an elite guy at getting to the rim. I will say additionally, from what I have heard, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but the number of NIL that he took was the number that we kind of thought he might take before him pulling his name out of the NBA draft. Like, it was the number that we kind of had earmarked for LeBaron all along. And the reason I mention this is if that is the case, if we did not have to use the full amount to go after LeBaron, right? Because from what it sounds like to me, it sounds like LeBaron had the feedback, came back to the staff and said, hey, I think I do want to come back. We put together a pitch for him. We gave him the offer that he needed. He came back to Alabama. Obviously, he loves Alabama. But if we did not have to use all of the money, then from what I'm hearing, we have somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million left to spend. Which, if we don't spend it, that's great. We